Thank you for browsing page 121. Today we're going to take a look at very often used at my table at least, and sometimes controversial spell, Magic Missile. This is out of the Player's Handbook. PHB, I've already zoomed in on the spell. So Magic Missile, it is a first level spell. It's an evocation. Range is 60 feet plus 10 feet per level, so your starting is 70 feet. Area or duration is special. Area of effect is one or more creatures in a 10-foot square area. Components are verbal and somatic. Casting time is one segment, and there is no saving throw. Use of the Magic Missile spell creates one or more magical missiles, which dart forth from the magic user's fingertips and unerringly strike their target. Each missile does 2 to 5 points of damage, die 4 plus 1 of damage. If the magic user has multiple missile capability, he or she can have them strike a single target creature or several creatures as desired. For each level of experience of the magic user, the range of his or her magic missile extends 10 feet beyond the 6-foot base. For every 2 levels of experience, the magic user gains an additional missile. 2 at 3rd level, 3 at 5th level, 4 at 7th, etc. So we're talking every odd level you gain another missile. So let's unpack a little bit about what this spell is and does. First off, it always hits. There is no saving throw, which means unless there's something special like a scarab protection in there or magic resistance, the magic user is going to get damage through. That damage is going to be 1 die 4 plus 1. So if a die 4 rolls roughly an average of 2.5 points of damage plus 1, you're going to be doing 3.5 points of damage on average per missile. So if I have 2 missiles at 3.5 points, I'm going to do 7 points of damage and so on and so forth. Now 1 die 4 plus 1 at first level is not much damage, especially when you have a chance of just throwing a 1. But it is guaranteed damage at first level, which I've always felt was important. Magic users don't melee well. I've always liked the Magic Missile spell, even at lower levels. Plus the fact that you can use this thing from starting at first level, you can use it from 70 feet away, is darn useful. If I have multiple missiles, so say I have 3 missiles, because I've made 5th level, each doing 1 die 4 plus 1, and I have 3 creatures standing shoulder to shoulder, say across the dungeon corridor, I can hit all 3, at least for some damage. So if these are orcs or goblins or something, I can at least pop each of them for 1 die 4 plus 1 damage. Or I can concentrate on 1 and just try to drop it. So that's a really useful aspect of the spell, and it's one that a lot of folks forget about, that you can spread this within the 10-foot area. The other part of the spell is it strikes creature. We used to have an argument at our table. This was a million years ago, and we were all new to the game. One of my players contended, and he was a sometimes DM, he contended that undead did not count. They're immune to the spell. I really never understood why he felt that, but he did. So he said, no, undead are not affected by this, therefore they can't be struck by Magic Missile. Well, it just says creature. So we kind of eventually adopted that he was incorrect, and he eventually agreed with us that undead are subject to this spell. The other thing I used to like to do with this spell when I was a lower level magic user is a common thing in our game was to encounter shriekers. Those are a type of mushroom that when you get near them, they start to vibrate and they start to give off a shrieking sound. They're great dungeon alarms for the creatures that are living in the dungeon area. Well, I used to try to take them at range with Magic Missile. And my DM said, wait a minute, no, you really can't do that. And I said, well, wait a minute, it's a creature. It's a single entity. I know it's a mushroom and everything, but it also had hit points. So we argued a little bit about it back and forth, and he eventually said, no, you're right. You can do that. Great. The third use I used to allow when I was very, very new to D&D. This only lasted a month or two in our game because we reread the spell and realized we were wrong. The third use was we used to allow it to shoot the locks off of doors. I love the old gangster films where the guy would take his gun and he'd blast the door lock off and then kick the door in. We used to allow that, and then we realized it does say creature, and that was something we never should have allowed. The other thing that we've often taken a look at is, or that we looked at when second edition came out, I should say, was the growth of the spell. It's every odd level gets another Magic Missile. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, for using my 10th level caster. My 10th level caster would cast 5 missiles, and it would go at 160 feet is maximum range, and at 5 missiles at 3.5 points of damage each. You're talking somewhere 17, 18 points of damage on average at 160 feet. Okay, no problem. But then second edition came along, and I rarely discuss second edition changes in these videos, but this one's important. Second edition came along and said, Magic Missile only goes to 5 missiles, and after that, you have to have improved Magic Missile to gain more missiles of damage. That never made sense to me. This spell is designed to grow with the game. There was an institutional dislike of Magic Missile in D&D. I feel it was kind of spearheaded by Ed Greenwood. A lot of his stuff, his magic items and circumstances in his various writings would give immunity or partial immunity to Magic Missile. I always felt it was a spell he just didn't care for. We never had that, so we've allowed Magic Missile to grow. So a 20th level Magic user would, of course, get 10 Magic Missiles. So when they fire their 10 Magic Missiles at 3.5 points each, they're going to deal about 35 points of damage to a creature that round. That seems like a lot until you take a look at what a 20th level fighter is doing at that level, even before weapon specialization. And you realize that that's not that much damage, but it is reliable damage. And that's something that's very important to the Magic user in this case. So there you have it, some ways to use and misuse Magic Missile. A very popular spell at my table, still is. Gets used almost every time I have a Magic user at the table. And I like it. I like this spell a lot. I love that it's verbal and somatic only. No material component needed. It's just a really good spell. And my Magic users, when I trot them out, I always kind of hope for the best and try to get one of these when I start out as a good offensive spell. I realize Sleep is a better offensive spell at first level, but I don't care. I love Magic Missile. So that's all I've got to say today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please leave some comments, like the video, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Tell your friends. And I'll see you next time on page 121.